just recorded a whole message and realized I wasn't recording. Yeah, I hadn't thought about, leaving the kids without an agreement and what that would do. I had not thought about it. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess whatever happens as a result of that is what happens. But I decided to call the non-emergency line like a few minutes ago just to ask them, like, what are my rights? Like, what can I do? Like, he is a danger. He's coming, legally. Can I stay in the house if he shows up? Can he be asked to leave? You know, so there's like an officer supposed to call me back. We'll see what happens, but I really want him to go to the hospital. Like, that's what he needs to do. He's not in his right frame of mind. He's not been taking his medication. He's not well. So that's what I'm dealing with today. It's been great. So yeah. But I do think that I am going to seek legal counsel. I mean, I am going to, not just think. I'm going to. I just need to, like, figure out how to go about all this. I've never done anything like this, This is all new to me. So, yeah, I'm going to look at, like, the free legal, aid or whatever through the state, and we'll see how that goes.
It became very clear to me that this man never intended on killing himself. He only intended on running. And he had planned her execution for over a year. Living in that, the whole time that they were living in that house in Gardner, he was planning her murder. I want to say 6 weeks before the murder, my brother Vern reached out to me. And I don't know my brother Vern. He left home when I was maybe in second grade. He's quite a bit older than I am. So I don't really have memories of him. I don't know him. And since I've been an adult, I believe I've seen him 3 times, and didn't really talk to him when I saw him. But he reached out to me, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe as adults we'll connect. So I chatted with him. It was a nice chat, but, it was really about gossiping about Aaron and Breezy a lot, and gossiping. And it's just that's a dynamic in my family I don't particularly like. Like, I don't need to hear about everybody. Just tell me about you, tell me about what's going on with you and your family. So he's telling me about Breezy and Aaron and all their financial woes, this, that, and the other thing. And, me feeling very much as a mother to Breezy, I'm, of course, worried. So I call my brother Jeff, and I'm like, Jeff, Vern told me that this is going on with Breezy and Aaron. Are you aware? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, what are we as a family going to do? Like, we need to come together. I can pay off their car, and what we need to do is get them into a short sale on their house. There are things that can be done, like, rapidly right away, so they're not destroyed completely. And he's like, oh, Brenda, you can't help them. Let's just put I go, what? And I was shocked. Like, I get where my brother is coming from. I do. But at the same time, it was like, but they're little children. We can't, as a family, sit here and let these little kids be homeless. I mean, we can do something. So I started calling, and I'm leaving messages like, hey, call me. I can, give me a call. And I didn't want to leave her a message and say, hey, I know about your financial struggles. Let me help you. I was like, give me a call, because I wanted to see what could I do. And the next phone call I got after that was my brother Jeff letting me know that Aaron had murdered her.
This is Searching for Answers, The Murder of Breanne Pennington, Part 2. In Massachusetts, history lives on every street corner, in every town center, in every quiet neighborhood. You think you know, but behind some of those places are stories that never really left. Stories of people, families, and moments that have changed entire communities forever. This is Murders in Massachusetts. I'm Jonathan Power, creator, executive producer, and host. Each episode will take a closer look at real cases across the Bay State. Not just what happened, but where it happened, and how it continues to shape the people and places left behind. Because these aren't just headlines, they're part of the towns we call home. And if you find these stories meaningful, be sure to follow the podcast so you always know when new episodes are available. This podcast discusses real crimes, including murder, and in some cases, crimes involving children. These topics may be disturbing for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. I was going to ask, do you think he snapped? But obviously, no, he had been planning this.
Absolutely not. Absolutely no. Aaron is highly manipulative. He's manipulative. I find him to be manipulative, because whenever Aaron wants to get out of something, like his mission, he went on his mission. He was homesick. He wanted to come home, so he started, acting like his mom. His mom's mentally ill, so he knows what it looks like. So he starts talking about, oh, I'm depressed, I'm gonna kill myself, blah blah blah. So the church says, you know what, we're gonna send you home, and they sent him home from his mission. In the world of the LDS community, that's a big deal. It's a huge disappointment. It's a huge investment for a family to send someone on a mission. Like my son, it's like it's almost $30,000. $30,000 investment to send your child on a mission, a 2-year mission. So he came home early, and once he got home, mental illness gone, right? Well, when they were in Okinawa, and he didn't want to go to Germany, and he didn't want to be overseas anymore, and all that, he started up again. And as soon as he got to Arizona, he was fine. And then when he wanted to get out of the military, he started it again. And so there's a pattern, right? And the pattern in Aaron that I see is he's only mentally ill when he wants to get out of responsibility. That's what I see. And he knows what mental illness looks like because he watched his mom his whole life. And so in his journals that I read, years worth, by the way, there's no mention of suicide or mental illness or anything like that. Nothing. And then when I got a whole bunch of so when I went into the crime scene, I found some things. I found the clip to the gun within 5 minutes of being in that crime scene. So if you're planning on killing yourself, right, being a family annihilator, why would you drop the clip to the gun?
The following day, a hunter discovered Aaron Pennington's abandoned BMW deep in the woods near Camp Collier in Gardner, an area surrounded by dense forest, trails, wetlands, and isolated terrain stretching toward nearby Ashburnham. And Camp Collier isn't just any random patch of woods. So take us back. So they didn't immediately identify, or they did immediately identify that he was on the loose, but they weren't saying anything beyond that.
All we knew, and all officials were telling us, was that he had fled the scene. He had fled the house on Cherry Street, and a search was underway for him. Now, what happened was his car was discovered the next day, about 36 hours after the murder. And by the time they realized that he had gone from the scene of the murder to the woods in Camp Collier, That was, like I said, it was about 30 hours head start he had, and beyond that, we didn't know where he was. And the search was underway around the woods, which is 700 acres around Camp Collier. He went to great lengths to hide his car. He was at the end of basically a dead end street, and he turned down a path and drove about 1,500 feet down the path to the point where his car was not visible from the road, which was a dead end street, which no one really traveled on anyway. But what's interesting is that to get down that path, he had to somehow navigate his car over four large rocks, boulders. And if you just saw those boulders from the road, you would think there was no way anyone could get a car over those. But somehow he did it. There are scrapes and indications on those rocks that something heavy went over them. So the fact that he went to such lengths to hide his car, and he had a 30-hour or so head start, it might be reasonable to speculate that he maybe did not go there to kill himself.
What I had found out in all of my interviews with people, and I interviewed everybody, I talked to everybody in detail. I did my own investigation because I was shocked. Like, I would have never thought Aaron would do this, but people don't just up and do this. He did not just snap. He had documented on his phone for a year the many different ways that he was going to kill her. He had several different ways in which he was contemplating killing her. And that was going on for a year while he was they were living as husband and wife. And he was going to church and playing, this wonderful Mormon man who was, being mistreated by his wife so badly. That was kind of what he did. But Aaron told her he was going into a mental health hospital through the VA, gone for 10 days, and he was not checked into the mental health hospital. And so when he came back, and everybody, people at church asked him, "So, Aaron, where were you? Like, if you weren't in the mental health hospital, where were you?" He goes, "Well, I was camping out in Camp Collier." And so they're naturally, "Well, how did you do that? How did you do that with no supplies?" Like, well, and Aaron said, "Well, I have stashed supplies there. I stashed supplies there." See, because Aaron would go and he would, whenever things got hard at home, or he just wanted to check out, he would disappear. He would just disappear, and he would go camp somewhere.
Dense tree lines, narrow trails, rustic cabins, and stretches of forest that can feel incredibly remote, especially as daylight disappears. Ironically, Camp Collier was even used as a filming location for Showtime's Dexter: New Blood, where scenes involving the fictional serial killer hiding deep in snow-covered woods were shot there.
2 years before the Pennington murder, the TV show Dexter filmed out at Camp Collier. It was a main location. In fact, that's where Dexter had his cabin. And part of the plot was a manhunt, a search for a body out in those same woods using helicopters and police dogs and search teams. And to see that actually happen, say 2 years later after that series aired, that was kind of a surreal moment of life imitating art.
Suddenly, Gardner became the center of one of the most intense manhunts Massachusetts had seen in years. Massachusetts State Police flooded the area, Canine teams searched deep into the woods. Helicopters circled overhead. Drones scanned the tree line. Dive teams searched nearby bodies of water. Tactical units moved through dense brush and isolated trails. Residents were warned to remain alert. Some nearby areas were temporarily told to shelter in place as authorities searched for any sign of Aaron Pennington.
I don't call it a neighborhood. It's a street. It's a dead end street in the way out in the woods. But there was a shelter in place that I happened to be in the middle of. I had to shelter in place with people I knew in their house, and helicopters were flying all over the place. Police were out in yards checking sheds, checking garages, checking underneath cars, and that lasted about 4 hours on the night the car was discovered out at out in the woods. And that was a very strange experience to just see such a extensive manhunt from law enforcement.
But despite the scale of the search, he was nowhere to be found. Days passed, then weeks, and eventually months. What investigators believe happened inside the Pennington home is both horrifying and deeply tragic. Here is one of Breanne's closest friends.
My name is Sarah Wilcox. We met online, which was odd. It was a mom's group called the 18 Clovers. All of us were going to be due with children in March of 2018. And I met Breezy on there, along with a number of ladies who actually lived in my city of Wilmington, North Carolina. And all of us became ridiculously tight. We were such good friends. Like my lifelong girlfriends are actually from that group. We were just a very tight knit group, but Breezy and I specifically hit it off. So I was one of the only people that she had confided in about what was going on. It scared me so much that we had a code system that twice a day I would check in. And if she didn't answer the code correctly, I was to call the police. We had that going. She also had sent me her nan, her grandma that adopted her. She called her Nan. I had Nan's phone number. I had Aaron's phone number. I had his logins to his email, um, as well as his Apple phone information in case something happened to her. Um, I think I think she knew he was as dangerous as he was, but she didn't want to admit it. She so desperately just wanted a stable family for her children, which was something that she didn't really have.
Aaron was searching throughout the house for Breanne's firearm prior to the shooting. Evidence indicates that Aaron was aggressively looking for the weapon and ultimately located it. Authorities believe he then used Breanne's own gun to kill her. Reportedly, Aaron barricaded himself and Breanne inside their bedroom. According to the evidence at this scene, the bedroom door had been locked and obstructed during the incident. Aaron then fatally shot Breanne inside the bedroom while the couple's children were still inside the home.
That Saturday, before he murdered her, she said that he was just rummaging through the house, opening every cupboard and rummaging through the house, and she just thought he was acting crazy. No, he wasn't acting crazy. He was looking for the gun. So, in my investigation, in what I concluded was he was very clear of mind. He had a mission, and he was there to execute that mission. And so so to her, he was acting crazy because she didn't realize this is a man that has been planning your execution for a year. He's now here to execute that plan, and he's looking for the gun. Clearly he found the gun. He found the hiding place of the gun. So clearly she was not going and putting the gun on her person for protection, right? With him in the house. Kind of tells you where her mind was. My dad had given her that gun in Arizona, and she had it for her protection. But I don't think she really thought that it was going to be against her own husband, right? What really bothers me is that none of his family members called her to warn her, to say, hey, he's headed home to you, right? They knew how much he hated her. They knew that he was not in a good frame of mind. The last picture taken of him was at an ATM with his dad pulling out money for him. And not one single person in that family called her. I am so sick of them. Don't you freaking tell me you loved her. You didn't love her. You didn't protect her. You didn't look out for her. You treated her like crap. You know, unbelievable. I've read all of her journals. I have read all of her notes on Facebook. I've read it all. Every text message, I know exactly how they treated her. What he did was he shot Breezy, and then he tried to tell the kids, hey, you know, I've got to go to the store and get some water. You get your shoes on and go to the neighbor's house, you know. And that's what he told the kids to do. And Avery, the oldest, said, Dad, we don't need to go to the store for water. We have water bottles downstairs, right? But what had happened even before that, she was knocking on the door, the bedroom door, and the dad said, Aaron said, hey, you know, your mom's not feeling very well. You know, we're just going to let her rest. I'm going to go to the store and get some water. Go get your shoes on and go over to the neighbors, you know, kind of thing. So Avery knew something was wrong, so she went and got the ghost key to the bedroom door. And Aaron had barricaded the door with his dresser. And at that point, he jumps out the bedroom window onto the cellar landing, jumps in the car, and at this point, Avery is standing on the back porch, right? And she goes out on the back porch in time to see him. He jumped from the bedroom window onto the cellar landing. He backed his car in, so it'd be a quick getaway, right? He gets in the car, and he looks his oldest daughter dead in her eyes as he's driving away, knowing he just murdered her mother and is leaving her there with her younger siblings, a 9-year-old child, alone in a house with a deceased mother. That is despicable. Like, I'm tired of people, oh, Aaron loved his kids. Knowing, yes. And he barricaded the door. So the kids go next door to the neighbors and say, hey, something's wrong with Mom. Dad left. He's not there. And so they call Brother Gonzalez from the church, right? And Gonzalez and another guy who were friends with Aaron come over. And mind you, they haven't called 911 at this point at all. They come over and they're knocking on the bedroom door and they can't get in. And so they push really, really hard to get in. And they're finally able to get in, and they see Breezy lying in the bed. They thought that maybe she was sleeping. And so they go over, and Brother Gonzalez said, I could see that Breezy was a tummy sleeper, so she was sleeping on her tummy. And she had her left cheek on the pillow. And he could see that her lips were blue, and he thought, well, maybe Aaron beat her up. Aaron would never beat her up. She would kick his ass. There's no way, you know? And because she was definitely more aggressive than Aaron. And so he goes to roll her over to do CPR, and of course, you know, catastrophic damage has been done to her face. And the news said, oh, she was shot in the face. No, she wasn't. I knew immediately. No, she wasn't. That was an exit wound. And these bullets in my dad's 38, 380. It's my dad's 380. It's a Walther 380 PPK. And in fact, I was with him the day that he picked it up because he had it custom made. But That bullet is a hollow point. It was loaded with hollow points, and the way those work is they're designed to do max damage on exit as it rips through the flesh and the body. So the entry wound is going to look like a dime, like a hole, a dime-sized hole, and it's the exit wound that's going to be catastrophic. So that she wasn't shot in the face; she was executed in the back of her head while she slept.
I remember immediately when the kids were home and the Avery tried to intervene. She tried to get that door open. She went and got the other kids dressed. I just remember thinking, if he was going to do a total family annihilation, Breezy dying first would have squashed that, because she would have protected those children with absolutely anything that she has. Those kids were her entire world. It was her identity. Like, her identity was, I am the mother of these 4 kids. And I just remember being so thankful that the children weren't hurt. Aunt Brenda and I became close, and she was in town in Gardner and was able to go to the house. No one had cleaned up the crime scene. And so she had me on FaceTime. Absolutely horrendous. But I stayed by Brenda's side the whole time. She was using her bare hands to clean up the mess, because Breezy deserved so much more dignity than how that scene was left. I mean, everything was still there. It was terrible. Brenda went over to the window that was next to what would have been Aaron's side of the bed, not where Breezy had been laying. The pillow on that bed did not match Breezy's comforter or sheets. And I remember saying to Brenda, that's very odd. What is that pillow? It doesn't go there. It had blood splatter on it, so I knew it was there when he shot her. She went to pick it up, and there was a huge knife under it. We don't know if it was his or hers. And there was a letter written by Breezy. It was about 5 years earlier, to Aaron. It was a love letter about how excited she was for their future, how much she loved their family, how much she loved him, and how much she wanted their marriage to work out, because it was pretty rocky, the entire marriage that they had. And it had areas where the ink had ran, and you could tell that someone had been holding it and crying. And we're pretty sure when Avery said she heard her mom crying, that her mom was already long dead, and it was Aaron in there with Breezy. I believe he was reading that letter and crying, which was gross. And then in a box full of like charging cords and cables and things on the floor on his side of the bed was a gun clip that were the same, I believe, caliber of bullets used on Breezy. Why that was still there from the police, I don't know. Why was that knife there? Why was the letter there? It was all just there. I would think pillows that had blood splatter would be important for an investigation, but it wasn't. Breezy's entire pillow she had been sleeping on when she was shot 3 times was still there. Her blanket that had covered her body was still there. They didn't take anything for evidence, nothing.
One of the most devastating details in the case was that one of the same officers who was dispatched to the house on Friday and spoke with Breanne was also dispatched to the home on Sunday and was forced to deliver the unimaginable news to the oldest child that their mother was gone. On October 25th, 2023, a murder warrant was officially issued for Aaron Pennington's arrest. Investigators publicly identified him as the primary suspect in Breanne's killing.
4.5 months later, went out there because my brother Vern had gone out there with my mom, and there were some things that did not feel right to me. Like this isn't adding up. Like this isn't right. And so I'm more of a I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to find out what's going on myself kind of person. So I flew out there, um, and I went to her home, and I was on FaceTime with her mom, and I showed her where her daughter lived, and I saw the little pool with little floaties all frozen. The pool was still full of water. And I sat on the porch, and we had memories about Breezy. And I went and I had a locksmith come. And, my family had said they'd taken care of the house. My brother Vern said he cleaned the crime scene. So I get a locksmith to open the house up. And I go in the house, and it's a disaster. And the crime scene is untouched. It's a horror show in there. And, her blood is still there. Everything is still there. So I went through and I found some key pieces of evidence that were left behind. And I had to take them to the police. And then I found journals and found a lot of stuff. So every day I came back until I left.
Still, there was no arrest, no confirmed sightings, no body, no clear evidence explaining where he went. And as time passed, the mystery only deepened. Authorities explored whether Aaron's military background and survival training as an Air Force veteran may have helped him evade capture or survive in remote areas. Multiple searches continued through 2024. Then in September of 2024, investigators returned again to the woods surrounding Camp Collier. Detective Lieutenant John Sullivan of the Massachusetts State Police described the case as deeply unusual, saying investigators simply refused to stop searching because after 2 years, Aaron Pennington had still never been found. And Breanne's family believes he's still alive. On April 28, 2025, Aaron Pennington's case was featured on the season premiere of America's Most Wanted, bringing renewed attention to the search and an urgent plea for the public's help locating him. But even with national exposure, the mystery remained unchanged. No verified sightings, no confirmed trail, no answers for Breanne's children. Only questions that still linger across Gardner. Because in a place built on familiarity, on routine and trust, people are still trying to understand how someone could seemingly disappear without a trace.
So, but when I talk with the lead homicide detective, Trooper Breton, he asked me where I thought Aaron would go. And I said, I tell you exactly where Aaron will go. You need to do a 10-mile radius from that house and find the most densely forested, isolated area, and that is where he will go. And, of course, they found his car, in Camp Collier because of a bow hunter, but there was also some sightings by a trail rider of Aaron at a campsite where she was riding her horse. And she came upon this guy in front of a fire and had a full campsite. And she was sure that it was Aaron. And just the hair on the back of her neck stood up, and she just hightailed it out of there. And she reported it to the police. But they came back like after dark, and they put up a drone, but it didn't have heat-seeking capabilities. But anyway, I believe Aaron. There's only two ways that he got out. One, he had somebody helping him get out. But I think he has to have somebody helping him. But I believe he jumped the train tracks and jumped the freight trains to get out. I believe he jumped a train. And there was, in fact, a sighting of him in a black hoodie at the freight train. And so I mapped out, and I mapped out from where the car was and all the freight lines, right? And it is less than a 10-mile hike. And Aaron was a runner. He was an avid runner. So for him to go 10 miles would be easy. And so he could very easily gotten to those freight lines and jumped a freight train. And there was a sighting of him at the freight train line that was valid. And by the time the police got there, the train had already taken off. And that's why they were searching up in Ashburnham and Farmington and all that. So Aaron you have to understand, he went he really worked hard to get his car where it was, right? They had these boulders blocking the trail so that cars wouldn't go down the trail. So he had to really jimmy that car to get it between these boulders. Like he had to work hard to do that. And then he got stuck in the mud. I think he was trying to drive towards the train tracks, to get as close to the train tracks as possible, but he got stuck in the mud. And he had to hike the rest of the way. And I believe that was his plan. So I believe that Aaron was blending in for a while, was just blending in, because he blended. No one was looking for him outside of New England, and very easily able to do so. But after America's Most Wanted, no, I think he's really gone off grid. I think he's very much off grid. I do not for a moment believe that his family does not know he's alive. Absolutely not. They know that guy is alive. They absolutely know he's alive. They don't fool me. They are not fooling me one bit. And I'm telling this, you better cough up the truth, because we're going to find the truth. We are absolutely going to find the truth. And when we do, they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So they better rethink harboring him or harboring any information or knowledge that they have, because if they come clean, they can work a deal.
In November of 2025, 2 years after Breanne's murder, Massachusetts State Police launched another massive search operation involving the State Police Air Wing, canine teams, ATV units, the Violent Fugitive Apprehension Section, and tactical search crews. By then, Camp Collier had become more than just a search site. It had become a symbol of unanswered questions. And whether somewhere beyond the woods, beyond Route 2, beyond Massachusetts itself, Aaron Pennington is still out there. Do you think Aaron had any assistance after disappearing? Or do you believe he acted alone?
That is the interesting question, because what we know is that he fled the scene of the murder. His car was found the next day, and there was no sign of him. Now, I have spoken to law enforcement officials kind of off the record who have told me they believe he is in those woods somewhere and has not been found. His body has not been located. And the reason they say that is because he dropped off the face of the earth as far as any kind of social media presence, any kind of cell phone activity, any kind of bank activity. So some of the investigators that I've spoken to have said he's dead. And they really don't have question about it. On the other hand, the case is still active. As far as we know, he is on the loose. And what's interesting is we know he fled the scene of the murder and drove to Camp Collier, which is very far, very out of the way. If he was not familiar with this town, it's hard to know how he would have known about this.
I miss her. She was funny. She was so smart. And I just wish I could hug her and smell her hair, which I've been doing her whole life.
As of May 2026, Aaron Pennington remains missing and is still considered one of Massachusetts' most wanted fugitives. Pennington is currently 35 years old. He's described as standing 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing approximately 172 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. Investigators have also stated that the firearm used in the homicide was never recovered, and Aaron Pennington should still be considered armed and dangerous. Do you know where Aaron Pennington is today? If you have information regarding Pennington's whereabouts, you're urged to contact the Massachusetts State Police Violent Fugitive Apprehension Section at 1-800-CAPTURE with a K. That's 1-800-527-8873. All this information will be available at murdersinma.com. I'm Jonathan Power. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Murders in Massachusetts. If this episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it. And be sure to follow or hit the like button so you always know when new episodes are released. Multi-part episodes will be released on a weekly basis, while standalone episodes will follow a bi-weekly release schedule. You can always find more information about this or any episode at murdersinma.com. If you have any insight into a case or a story you believe should be told, you can reach me directly at murdersinmapodcasts@gmail.com. And as always, remember the stories we tell here are about real people, real families, and communities that continue to carry them. I'm Jonathan Power. We'll see you next time.